issued for the first 7 buildings in the venue. So they're finishing up some kind of site-related items before they're ready to move anybody in, but all of their buildings have been completed at this time for their first 7 of those buildings. Looking forward at some upcoming meetings. P&Z will meet here on the 17th, and the council will eventually see a couple items related to some residential plats. Edgewater 8th and 9th phase, which is right off of Creekmore Drive in Hampstead. Those are nearing completion of site work, and so we'll take those through the review process for the lots themselves towards the end of this month, and that will make its way to the council in February. The last 2 items I wanted to mention to the council within our department. Last month, Heather Eisenbarth, who's the city's GIS coordinator, she celebrated her 20-year anniversary with the city, which is pretty significant for the department. And then I'll share it a month early. Tomorrow is actually John Warner, our building official. Tomorrow is his 20-year anniversary. So a lot of experience in our department celebrating some good milestones this past month and this month. So that will conclude my staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Gress. Any questions for Mr. Gress? And congratulations on your 6-year anniversary, sir. Yep, you betcha. I know, I can't believe it's been 6 years already. Can you? Yeah. If there are no questions, we'll move back on to the staff reports again. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Gress. I would call on Chief. He's going to have a slightly lengthier report than we usually do, but the topic is current and it's very, very important. So, Chief.
If you gentlemen could pass those down now, that'd be great. Passing down some photos to go along with what I'm going to talk about to give you guys an idea. The one that you really should pay close attention to is the penny and the substance next to the penny. That is 2 milligrams, and that is a lethal dose of fentanyl. So what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of fentanyl awareness. Everyone's heard of it. I don't know if everyone has seen the video, the coverage of the Traverse, Florida body cam footage of a young female officer going down and unconscious as a result of fentanyl exposure. The officer made a vehicle stop for a traffic violation, just a simple traffic violation. During her investigation, she opened a small container. That container, she observed a substance she believed to be drugs and quickly closed the lid back on the item immediately. She was gloved up for protection, and she was still exposed. Officers on the scene believe her exposure was from the wind when she opened the lid. The windows were down on the car doors were open. She opened the lid. Right about the same time, it was windy that evening, and it dusted up. What little, as you can tell by that photo that I've handed out, that lethal dose is pretty small compared to that penny. She was then transported before she was transported on scene, she received 3 Narcan sprays in her nostrils at various times on the incident. Then she was transported, and she's doing well now. However, that was just December. I don't know if any of you watched that video of the news footage. You might jump on it and watch that. It's pretty dramatic. What is fentanyl? Fentanyl is a pharmaceutical synthetic opioid for treating severe pain, mostly. It is 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine. It is prescribed in various formats or forms such as transdermal patches, lozenges, and can be diverted for misuse and abuse in the United States. You know, back in the day, you'd have a bunch of folks getting false scripts and getting opiates that way. Nowadays, it's all, most of the stuff on the street's illegal. Those fraud scripts are a thing of the past. So, however, most recent cases of fentanyl-related harm, overdoses, deaths in the U.S. are linked to illegally made fentanyl, as I just said. It is sold through illegal drug markets for its heroin-like effects. It is often mixed with heroin or cocaine as a combination product with or without the user's knowledge to increase the euphoric effects. And it's mixed with those items, so if they survive, it keeps them coming back for more. And on those photos, you can see some of the illegal forms. The one next to the penny is a powder substance, almost rock-like. And then on the other photos that should be going around, is what we see mostly here in Raymore, which is a blue pill with M30 on it, like an Oxycontin. That's what it's supposed to be, but it's fake. If you look at those photos that are going around up there, there's a fake blue pill and a real blue pill. And if you look at those pictures, you can't tell really which is which. And those pills, the fake ones, are done in a pill press, so how much fentanyl can be put in that pill press, you know, you see the size, the lethal amount next to that penny, so it doesn't take much. Now I'll bore you with a little bit more statistics. From 2016 to 2021 in Missouri, overdose deaths in Missouri rose nearly 59%. From 2016 to 21, non-heroin opioid deaths increased by 181%. Non-heroin deaths or opiates are synthetic, it's all fentanyl. So it's increased 181%. In 2021, the majority of overdose deaths between the ages of 15 and 64 were due to non-heroin opioids. Where's it coming from? Years ago, it was mostly coming from China. It's still coming from China, but the leader now is Mexico, and some of that from China also still is coming up through Canada, and then obviously coming up from Mexico, coming north. So, let me jump down here a little bit. I'm on a time limit. So on average in Kansas City area, M30 pills, that's what I call them, M30 pills, they're Oxycontin lookalikes, and other counterfeit pills containing fentanyl cost between $15 and $25. So that tells you why there's so much of it, and it is very lucrative for drug dealers. Since 2019, the Raymore Police Department, we currently have 10 unrelated, none of the cases are connected, involving powder form and or mostly M30 type cases. Our cases mostly consist of user amounts, onesies and twosie pills, for the lack of a better term. That's typically just possession cases. Some of the symptoms of fentanyl poisoning are much the same as poisoning by any other opiate. That's slow breathing, decreased consciousness, pinpoint pupils, and then passive fentanyl exposure symptoms, on the other hand, may include respiratory distress, depression, nervous system depression, drowsiness, reduced level of consciousness, dizziness. And if you watch that video of that officer in Florida, you can see all of those symptoms and the more severe. And again, it doesn't take much to be lethal, as you can see in that photo. Let's see, some of the things that we're doing here locally. I mean, all the agencies around in Cass County and actually in the Kansas City metro area have seen an increase in the use of fentanyl in all sorts of illicit drugs. Marijuana now, methamphetamine, they're mixing it in with all their drugs of choice. So one of the things that the Cass County Prosecutor's Office has done is develop a case review for fentanyl type cases, to where all the agencies within the county can get together and discuss similarities with their cases, try to connect them, because a lot of the cases are these onesies and twosies. The things that may connect them is who is giving them the drugs, who they're selling, who they're buying the drugs from. So that's what we're doing now. We're trying to all work together and come up with cases and attach these cases to the suspects. And I have just a couple more items. It usually lasts between 24 and 72 hours. It can be detected in your urine for that long. The actual effects last between 4 and 6 hours, depending on the person's, how much they use. As I mentioned Narcan with the agency in Florida. They use Narcan to help bring the young officer around. We've been using Narcan since 2019. We've deployed it probably 30 times since 2019. And that's a very, regardless of what was going on, whether it was a fentanyl overdose or just an overdose in general from something else. So don't be too surprised next year when Narcan's going to be in our budget. We were getting it from the health department. That grant has ran its course, so we will be purchasing that, and that is going to be a must need for sure. And then I'll finish up with just a couple more numbers. One of the statistics from CDC, in 2020, more than 56,000 people died from overdoses in the U.S. Involving synthetic opioids. In 2021, the number increased to 71,283. That's a 77% of all overdose deaths in the U.S. Of course, that number is what, almost 3 times the population of Raymore, so that's pretty significant. And with me jumping around, that's all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Anybody have any questions of the chief? Yeah, Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for that report. It's very enlightening, very interesting. Understanding the situation that occurred and the seriousness of it, what procedures have you looked at internally to kind of protect our officers, whether it be training? And then second question, what did you need from this council, whether it be funding for PPE, additional training courses to make sure that our officers are protected?
I think next year we'll just put in, I think it's going to be about $75 per Narcan for a set of 2. So we're going to put in for about $1,500 just to get us through the year. And I think that's just going to be our normal request. And then, what was the second question, sir?
Training.
Training. We've all been trained. We're also going to be bringing in some DEA agents that work in the metro occasionally and tell us what they're seeing, what's some of the best ways to handle fentanyl or other drugs for that matter, because I'm sure they're going to be cutting this with other things as well as time goes on. But we've all had training, and we're going to continue to train, because as people get caught, they're going to change up some of their methods. So we have to change and train, with them as they change as well. So.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for you, Chief. I found it interesting that one of the pictures you showed us with authentic oxycodone, the M30, and then the fake ones, what's interesting to me is that the ones that are real don't look like they were made in a factory. They look like they were made, in somebody's, I don't know, they look like, is that typical?
Well, according to the experts, it's typical, but it just seems to me that the fake ones are in that press a little bit harder, and they're probably doing that press one at a time, depending on what, how big of an operation it is.
Huh. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Holman.
I find it interesting how everyone's heard the phrase that history repeats itself, and the mayor will remember back about 30 years ago, the same concern was told to us in the academy about LSD blotter squares. Fortunately, that one never came to fruition at the level that you're seeing now. But it was the same thing. If you recovered them, if you touched that stuff, the training was give your gun to another officer so that you didn't go crazy and shoot yourself or someone else. I can remember in my entire time at Belton PD of 8 years, I think we made 2 arrests where we found those and struggled with how to run the field test on those without touching them. So you've got more of a challenge because it's so much more common now, and probably a little bit different usage, because I think in addition to, we think of those times with drug use and people wanting them for recreational use. You get a lot of people out there that are using this for pain management without approval, and you're self-medicating, you don't know the dose you're getting. I'm guessing you're probably seeing a significant number of cases that are like that.
Yeah, I think that I can think of 2 right now that I think, obviously that it ended bad. However, I know that they didn't know what was in that pill. And you guys all see up there that amount that's next to that penny. That's not much.
Very much, no.
Some of the folks are breaking the pills up, but you break one of those pills up in a quarter, who's to say that not all of that's in that 1 quarter? I mean, that's not very much substance there. 2 milligrams is not a lot.
Nope. Anyone else? Thanks, Chief. Mr. Fearborn, anyone else?
Mr. Fairborn, I have one more thing.
Go ahead.
And then there's just one other thing, unrelated. January 9th is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, and I'd just like to take a minute to thank all the officers, all of our officers, for the hard work and commitment they do for the community.
Ditto. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Just from me this evening, a reminder, next Monday, there'll be no work session as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King. And a reminder to you, sir, that staff would respectfully request that under new business, item C be pulled from tonight's agenda.
Mr. Zer, will that require a motion?
I will never detain or restrain you, the council, from a motion to withdraw or to alter the agenda.
All right, sir. Then I would entertain a motion to withdraw item C from the new portion of the agenda this evening.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Townsend.
so moved.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion made and seconded to withdraw item C from the new portion of the agenda this evening. All those in favor? Any opposed? And it looks like it's unanimous, 7-0. We'll withdraw that from the agenda. Anything else, Mr. Fearborn?
That includes staff reports this evening, sir.
All right, any questions of Mr. Fearborn or staff before we move on? Yes, Ms.
Do we know why? Is this going to get put on just for a later date, or are we just taking this off to?
There are a number of issues that MoDOT did not respond to us on. We got the agreement very, very late, wanted to get it on in case. You may not, you're probably at the very least not going to see it in this form. Short explanation, last week the mayor signed a quitclaim deed that put the entire intersection and about a quarter of a mile west of the intersection gave it to MoDOT. So do we actually need an agreement because they're doing all the work on their own road now?
It might not be needed. No, we're still checking on that, though. Yeah, no, good question. And if that concludes it, we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda this evening, items A through C. I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda in total or any portion thereof.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve consent agenda item A, city council minutes for December the 12th. Item B, resolution 23-01, appointment of and affirmations of members to the incentive district boards. And item C, resolution 23-02, municipal center detention improvements, acceptance and final payment.
Thank you, sir. I have the motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda, all 3 items. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3764 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3764 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, calling for and establishing the date of the general municipal election to be held on April 4, 2023.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve Bill 3764, calling for the April 4, 2023 municipal election.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I will second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3764. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3771 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3771 by title only, an ordinance authorizing and directing submission to the voters of the City of Raymore, Missouri at the election of April 4, 2023 for the purpose of authorizing the imposition of an additional sales tax of 3% on the retail sale of adult use marijuana as prescribed by Section 115.121.3 RSMO and directing the city clerk to provide notice of the election.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve Bill 3771, recreational marijuana sales tax on April 4th, 2023 ballot.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3771. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3766 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3766 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Neil Settle Printing, Inc. for printing services.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve Bill 3766, award of contract to Neil Settle Printing Incorporated for printing services.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I'll second the motion.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3766. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3767 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3767 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Fast Signs for sign printing services.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend?
move that we approve Bill 3767, award of contract to Fast Signs for sign printing services.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3767. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. And the last item under unfinished business, could I please have the second reading of Bill 3765 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3765 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving the Estates at Knoll Creek second final plat, lots 57 through 95, and tracts D and E, a subdivision of land located in the southwest quarter of Section 12, Township 46 North, Range 32 West, Raymore, Cass County, Missouri.
Thank you, ma'am. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item. Mr. Townsend?
Move that we approve Bill 3765, the Estates of Knoll Creek second and final plat.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3765. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. We'll now move on to new business. Could I please have, let's see, this item is the tax increment financing plans and redevelopment projects and a progress overview. This item actually requires a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing at this time and ask for a staff report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Keller to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you.
And Mayor and Council, while Mr. Keller's walking up to the podium, I'm going to take control of your screens real quick for some supporting information.
You guys didn't rehearse this earlier? Come on now.
I was the designated button pusher until I
Oh,
realized
okay.
we had a
I
remote
gotcha.
that didn't need me.
Yeah. I'm just gonna wait for it to come up on the
Oh, okay.
on the screen.
On the big
here,
screen.
I guess to warm up.
We didn't want to take over your screens until it was time.
Yeah. All right. I think that's good. Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm just giving the 2023 annual TIF plan update for the 3 TIF districts here in town. So first, there you go. So first is going to be the Foxwood Village Shops TIF plan, essentially where Culver's is. The eats on this TIF area increased over $77,000 compared to last year, which is good news for that plan. And then additional good news, Starbucks is still moving forward and been approved for a standalone store on the lot to the west of Culver's. Part of that will be infrastructure and traffic flow improvements at that site, and that'll be included as part of the project starting construction this year for that. So with the TIF revenues, the city has been fully paid off for the traffic signal cost earlier in 2022, so good news there as well. The TIF expires in 2032, so Starbucks and Culver's will have 9 more years to be paid back for the improvements being made to that site. Next.
Any questions? Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Townsend.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be bringing some items relative to that to the council, because there are certain items that are in place that do require council approval if exceptions are going to be made to any businesses that go in there over a certain percentage that are non-sales tax generating. It would indeed, sir.
Yeah. So if that project does move forward, you guys would have a vote on that. Yes. Yep. So next is the Raymore Galleria TIF plans. So the eats on this TIF actually increased over $1.4 million over last year. Part of that could be the dispensary has had a full year of operation. Whataburger also opened back in December. And I also got a membership at Sam's Club. So oh, yeah.
Uh-oh, threw him off there.
That was,
Go ahead, try to regroup.
that was cheap. So
Try to regroup.
as part of the Watermark Apartments, the district should see an increase of residents when that project is complete. So that could also benefit this TIF immensely. As part of the vacant office max, staff has been in contact with a potential buyer tenant of that. So still discussing that, very early stages for that. And that TIF has a termination of 2028, so pretty close there. Next is the 50th Highway and Dean Avenue TIF plan. So on this one, the eats increased over 68,000 compared to last year. So part of that, Wingstop opened earlier this last summer, replacing the vacant freezing moo. And then, let's see, this TIF also terminates in 2028. So getting close there as well. So that completes the TIF update.
So Brandon, let me ask you, so it looks like in all 3 of these incidences, the eats taxes have increased. Does that give us an opportunity for within the next couple of years for refinancing capabilities to try to satisfy those sooner, or are they all kind of moving toward the regular expiration date?
We, the city, hold no debt on any of these.
Right.
It's all, in fact, most of I believe 2 of the 3 of them are pay-as-you-go.
Yeah.
So there would be no opportunity to close them out early.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Just
so for
curious.
example, let's just say if it was just Culver's and no one else ever came, I think at their current rate, Culver's is estimated to be fully paid off within 3 years. And so there would still be, let me do my math, so there'd still be 6 years left of the TIF essentially just sitting idle, waiting for someone to come to take advantage of it.
I got you.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right. And then on the Cadence project, that was, what was the expiration date on that one?
That's 2028.
2028 as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yep.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you, sir.
Yep. Thank you.
Appreciate it. As this is a public hearing, if anyone from the community would like to come up and speak to this particular item, please step forward and state your name and address for the record. Try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. See no one coming forward. Is there any further action from the staff?
This requires no further action.
Okay. So it's just a report.
Correct, sir.
All right, I'll close the public hearing. And we will move on to item B. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3772 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3772 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with ATHCO for replacement of the 2 to 5-year-old recreation park playground.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a staff report on this particular item.
Oh, I thought
Probably
he
a
was-
surprise to you
I thought
because
he
he's
was
already
just coming
standing
up,
here.
Yeah.
I'm just really
I
excited.
thought you were just coming up to say hi.
No, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to be here. So obviously, based on the title, this is a replacement of the playground at Recreation Park, the 2 to 5-year-old. It is now the older playground at Recreation Park, and it is time to be replaced. So this is one of our projects that was approved for the FY22 budget. And in October, we submitted an RFP for this. We had some requirements to meet what we wanted in that playground. We did receive 3 bids. Some of those requirements were 6 belt swings, infant swings, adaptive chair, the adult child where the parent faces the kid, the child on the swing. Let's see, benches, trail connectors, and a climbing structure. If you'll notice, it's pretty heavy on swings, and that's because we took some surveys out there after the new playground on the one side was put in, what you wanted on the other side, what the children wanted. And basically, I got in trouble because I took all the swings out. And so that was the main thing, is that they wanted their swings back. And we did a count of swings within the city of all of our playgrounds. As you know, we've done a lot of replacement and repairs of our playgrounds. And there's just a handful of swings in the entire city. So hopefully this will satisfy those kids, and we'll be able to have a great playground. So the park board did review this. It was approved 6-0 back on December. I've submitted renderings, and Colin Anderson is a representative of ATHCO. He is here in the audience tonight representing his company, and we recommend this project. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Nathan. Any questions? Nathan? Yes, Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Nathan, for the report. I also did a less scientific survey with a sample size of 1, age 9. Jenna does approve of this, so she wanted her name mentioned publicly. But all seriousness, we do go there quite a bit. Our kids, she, and even my teenager, her friends go to the park and walk, but they beg us, we're on acreage, but they beg us to take them to Rec Park. And they always see friends from, they played sports with 3 years ago, or friends they went to school with in the past. It's amazing how much of our town uses that park. I'm sure you know more than anybody else, but well done, and we look forward to seeing the expansion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Burke.
Thank you. I wanted to thank the department for taking care of this. This has been a site of trauma for me. Back first year I was a dad, I watched my son get onto a piece of equipment, 4th of July. He was maybe, 6 months old, 8 months old, whatever, and then I couldn't find him. And I'm like, I can't go back to the blanket and tell my wife that I've lost my child, because there were just hundreds of children everywhere. It was very traumatic, but my son's 21 now, so I guess we survived it. But it'll be nice to see something new. And also, my children also used to get in trouble from the police for climbing on top of the old structures during 4th of July, 10 years after that. So, good time to replace. Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, sir. If there's no further questions of staff, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we approve the first reading of Bill 3772, Recreational Park Playground Replacement Award of Contract.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3772. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. We removed item C from the agenda. We will now move on to public comments. If anyone from the public would like to address the council this evening, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. I see no one rushing the podium, so we'll move on to mayor and council communications. And Mr. Holman, I'll start with you tonight, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Two short items. One, congratulations to our employees. 2 20-year anniversaries, a 6-year. I'm guessing there may be another one out there we don't know about, either soon or coming up soon. It's not just the fact that we have those people celebrating anniversaries, but that is a testament to the culture of the state of the city that you have put in place, sir, and to how we value our employees like we do, and that they're comfortable in their work, they like what they do, and they like where they work. And that translates to great service for our citizens. We're very appreciative of that, and that's just one of those little factoids, I think, that really says something about the city and how business is conducted here. And National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, what a perfect segue into your topic tonight, sir. And as always, make sure those officers stay careful out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to also thank Heather and John. Both of them live in my neighborhood. I think they've lived in my neighborhood maybe, well, I think John has moved, actually. He used to live in my neighborhood, but now he's moved. Anyway, they both moved into the neighborhood maybe a year or two before I did, and they were smart and finding a good place to live and work. And I've been working in this city as well. And but I do know, like, Heather's got a cute little dog and a tree in her front yard, and she, if she can, she tries to go home for lunch and let her dog out. But the people, and I also know that they did like maybe 40. It was about 150% of the inspections that we did the year before. This year might be up, might be 140% of the year before. A lot of work being done in that office, and I really appreciate them. Secondly, this is more personal. Over the holiday, I took a real hard look at my job. I'm the in-school suspension teacher at the high school, at Ray-Pec High School, and a lot of times what I see are just people that have tardies, and then for one reason or another they either forgot to go to a detention or something. But there are some other students that are really struggling that I meet, and one of the things we have to deal with in education, and I try to tell my father this, he retired from education right before the smartphone, and we have arguments about it. I'm like, you don't understand what it's like now with the technology. So each kid has 2 computers at all times, and one computer is supposed to be hidden in their pocket or in their bag, and the other one's on the desk for school purposes. And in my room, kids that are there for all day long, they always run out of stuff to do. And I just felt like chastising them about looking at YouTube all the time was just making everybody unhappy, making me unhappy, making them hate me. And so I've instituted a new optional vocational assignment. They must use YouTube and watch over 30 minutes of somebody actually doing a job, a profession, that it has to be a profession, GED or better. They have to email me the name of the profession, the hourly wage or yearly salary, benefits, and is there a possibility to be promoted in this job? And if they email that to me, then they can listen to music on their headphones the rest of the day. I haven't really told anybody at work this, but I tried it last week and with my juniors, and they're like, you know, it just seems so much nicer in here. And you know, they watched videos about carpentry and fixing cars and doing all the other things that we need people to do in our community. And I'd much rather them get bored watching these vocational videos than watching some other stuff on YouTube. And maybe they'll be less likely to drop out, because kids that aren't finding themselves at the school, they just drop out, and then they live in our community and they struggle again. So I don't know, there's no solutions, but everybody can do a little bit every day, and maybe it'll be a little better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple things. Chief, I want to thank you for your report that you gave us. We all know that you have a difficult job kind of keeping ahead of what's the latest and greatest, and we know right now what the craze is, and we know a year or two from now that'll change to something else. It just seems to always be something, and it's always something that's deadly, or it's getting more deadlier. And I do appreciate, today, January 9th is Law Enforcement Officers Appreciation Day, but if you look at the Raymore surveys, the few surveys that I've been involved with, I would argue the fact that Raymore residents think every day is Officer Appreciation Day. We do appreciate what you do, and I know this council does too, and we want to make sure you have everything that you need to do your job, and I think we do a good job of doing that and make sure you have that. Another observation I made over the Christmas break was I did a little cruising around my ward and ended up over at Hawk Ridge Park and got to see what's going on with the Hawk Nest all-inclusive playground, and that has really exploded and going. And one of my observations, kind of on what Mr. Barrington said, was I could hardly get through the parking lot to drive through there to take a look at that because there were so many people using that park. The trail systems, I think going to fish, they had their bicycles there, all kinds of stuff, but it was really neat. And even that, the Hawk Nest playground's not even open yet, so I can't imagine when that opens up how busy that park's going to be. But I'm really pleased to see that park's really being utilized, and that goes to Nathan, your staff, and the park board, and I do appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No further comments this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo the comments of my council members, fellow council members, with respect to the Officer Appreciation Day and all the great work that's happened here. But I want to highlight a point, highlight my events last week, and even though I was, in D.C. for some of the different events that was going on that week, and one thing that kind of struck me, it kind of tugged at my heart a little bit, is we were outside the hotel waiting on an Uber. A family was coming out of a little turnstile, and Dad came out first with a backpack on. Next person to come out of this turnstile was a young boy. He maybe was 8 or 9 years old. He was had mobility challenges. He was in a little walker, and as he was coming past, Mom came behind him, helping along, and he was doing it. He was doing it himself. He wanted to make sure I'm going to do it myself. And I was telling the crew that was with me, we're installing a park so that he can play with all the kids. He can, enjoy without any impairments, concerns. Just get on the swings, get on the slides, do whatever he wants to do, just like all the other kids. And that really stuck with me. I really couldn't get with the rest of the day because of what we are installing here in the city of Raymore. That kids like that have those challenges, or parents that have mobility challenges that can't necessarily play with their kids. And like Mr. Barber said, I too have kind of been by there. I took my family, my wife by to see the park as it's growing and being installed, just to show, and just the size of it, just to show that that's what Raymore is, and that's what Raymore is. It took us a little time to get there, but the vision that Mr. Mustaine and the Parks Board had to kind of put that in place, and all of our parks really are being modified to allow, have opportunities for everybody to participate. It really says a lot about the community, and it really says a lot about the staff. That goes a long way to think through those things, to think outside the box, to make Raymore unique, make Raymore stand out, and that was reflected in the people who've been here 20 years, the people who've been here 6 years, and the people who just joined us a few weeks ago, a few months ago, that look to have that longevity. As we have council members that have been on council now 12 plus years, I think in some cases, getting beat up to do this in some aspects of some things that we do. And some things we do that's cool like this, we're able to kind of put staff for their initiative to get that done. But all around, that little time and that little 2-minute window that happened really reinforced that what we all do here goes a long way. So again, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity. Thank you to staff for doing what you do.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Forster.
Thank you. I'm with everyone else. I want to thank you and recognize the police in Raymore. I think all of them are great, and that we're getting new hires. I'm excited to see I think we're fully staffed. We're fully staffed, which is awesome. So just the fact that that people want to work here shows just great leadership and the atmosphere that you guys have created. And I really appreciate the update and the information. And I challenge all of us council people to get this out to our constituents. Like, this is great information that the pills look the same. So it's great to at least see what kids have, checking them and stuff like that. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also wanted to mirror what everyone else is saying. I wanted to tell you thank you for such an informative report, Chief Wilson, and that our emergency responders here in Raymore, they receive a lot of support in our city, and I think that if any new training or precautions become available for our emergency responders, the citizens would be interested in knowing what we can do to help keep them protected, very much so. Also very excited about Johnny's Tavern. That's going to be fun. And thank you to Mr. Mustine on his report. And I'm very excited about the expansion of Rec Park. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, I can't add to the comments of my colleagues up here this evening. We've still got a lot of work to do in executive session, so I would entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Townsend.
move that we move into executive session to discuss litigation of personnel matters as authorized by revised Missouri Statute 610.021, subparagraph 1, subparagraph 3.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Yes, sir. I will second the
Thank you, Mr. Holman. Motion's been made and seconded to move into executive session. Could I have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Abdel-Gawad absent. Councilmember Barber.
Yes.
Councilmember Barrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Burke. Councilmember Forster.
Yes.
Councilmember Holman.
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend.
Yes.
Councilmember Wills.
Yes.
We will now go into executive session. At the end of that session, we will reconvene to adjourn from regular session. Thank you.